Sears Silvertone All-American 5-tube clock radio. And this is actually a pretty nice example. It's a little dusty, but all the knobs are there. The clock is all there. I mean, this thing looks all there. Yeah, Silvertone was the house brand for a big catalog department store called Sears that used to exist for a lot of years in this here country. 660 watts. So you could plug your coffee maker into this, and I guess, I don't know, or a lamp, I don't know. But anyway, Silvertone. Of course, Sears didn't make these, so someone else made it. Wow, catalog number 10. We're going to do a quick analysis right now, and then I want to fix this and, you know, sort of restore it to where it's safe to use and works. So when you see a power cord like this, the first thing you want to do is you just don't want to ask any questions or use any kind of safety gear. You want to just plug it in. And if I could get this into the right place, that's what we're going to do. We're just going to plug it in. Huh, well, it looks like we got a short. I'll just kind of move this around to where we don't have a short. Oh, yes. Yep, totally safe. There we go. Nope. Come on. There we go. Alright, how do we turn the power on here? Must be that one because the bulb came on very dim. Come on. Don't break on me, dial cord, please. Well, what sort of bothers me, even if the filters are bad, if the radio's working, you should get KNX or some really loud station. Well, the number is 132.896, so someone can tell who made it by that number. And look at this, it has a schematic right in here. Unfortunately, it has these automatic style IF cans that like to get silver mica disease, the ones with the two little plastic things that probe through, but Trying to see if I can get anything. But the stupid dial cord got all weak on me. Well, there's really not a lot of wax capacitors here because it's using this couplet, and there are some ceramic disc. So there's probably only 5 or 6 wax capacitors. But this, I want to deal with this, and I think what's going on here is it's dry grease in this thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lube it with a little, yeah, it's really the grease in these bearings. The grease in those bearings. I'm going to just put a couple drops of like 0.20. So a little oil just immediately woke that up. It's just like a record player, it gets dry grease and it's still a little laggy. But it'll come around, but at least it's working now. So it looks like the string is stretched. See how the spring is totally collapsed there? Oh, I see. It's not even on there. Let me sort that out. I can hear and feel the clock motor running, but this doesn't have a second hand? Really? I've noticed most of the time with these radios, when the tubes fail, they fail with open filaments, not low emission. But we might have a good repair video here. This seems like a little bit of an unusual one. I'm looking for the other IF transformer. There should be 2 IF transformers. There's one. Where's the other one hiding at? It's gotta have 2, right? It doesn't? What? Oh, yes, it does, right? What? It doesn't. It only has 1 IF transformer. What? Okay, there's the antenna. There's the converter. 12BE6 is a converter. And then it only has 1 IF transformer. Usually there's another IF transformer right here between these 2 tubes. Well, this is interesting. I don't know what kind of rinky-dink cheap-ass shit this is. But hey, it uses a triple filter capacitor. Oh, I see. One of them is for the 50C5. Weird, it's an all-American 5-tube radio with only 1 IF transformer. It's kind of unique. No second hand, and only 1 IF transformer. And very loose tube sockets.
Reese's girlfriend, who was allegedly driving the day of the shooting, is awaiting trial on her own charges, including accessory after the fact. Burbank police have located and arrested. They've admitted to being the driver in that incident. 705, time to get you on your traffic. Let's check in with Brian Douglas.
Let's start with our 57, southbound just past the 91. Is where your backup begins. And even northbound, it looks like it's catching your attention a little bit. 55 north. What do we have here? We've got the middle lane taken away from, well, looks like somebody stalled. So that's got you heavy back to MacArthur on that north 55. All right, when you come over here to the 40. Past Wilshire.
Okay, there's an intermittent here somewhere. Where is it?
Take off 1 foot.
I think it's this.
Southbound, a little heavy past Lost Forest, so you can't get through. Around you. Topanga Canyon, East Malibu Canyon, if you're coming from the west. I know that's, you know what, that's what's going on there. Freeway southbound, Highland to the right, and 134 westbound before, or at Lancashire. Middle lane there. It looks like everything's going to move over to the right. That's a crash, by the way, heavy for you. Back to Planet Vista. Connecting you every 10 minutes with the fires from the Toyota Outdoors.com 24 hours.
Eventful right now, not complaining. It's pretty nice. LA and surrounding areas tonight, partly cloudy. You'll see lows in the upper 40s. Tomorrow, it'll be mostly cloudy in the morning, then sunny.
So we're going to be a minority, majority country, and that's a good thing. That came out of Biden's mouth. And Mayorkas was sitting right next to him. So why are people trying to act surprised?
Within the nation. Sure.
I totally agree with that. I believe that that's what my faith wants from me. I believe that, you know, God has taught me to protect my family first. Family, you know, after, of course, God, you know, comes after my family, you know.
Okay, well, good. We just had a loose screw there that was connecting the antenna to the tuning capacitor. And we have a tuning capacitor with dry grease and a string that has stretched a little bit over the time. I like this spring they got here, this extra spring to keep tension on the, it's like a belt tensioner almost. It's pretty interesting, that spring-loaded thing there to keep tension on the string. It's pretty cool. So we know we need capacitors. We know this needs to go, and some of these other thingy-dingies. But yeah, this is promising. I think this will be an easy one. Wow, so they got an 80 microfarad for the primary, 30 microfarad for the secondary, and then 20 for the audio output cathode bypass. That 80 sure seems big. But hey, I didn't design it. That sure seems like a big capacitor. Usually I thought they were like 40 to 50. There is no 80 microfarad. You might be able to special order an 82. 68 is common. So typically it goes 22, 47, 68, 100. There might be an 82, so you could either... There might be a 56 also. So typically it goes 22, 47, 56, 68. I guess there is an 82, then a 100. But anything except 22, 47, and 100 are sort of rare special order. So we can either go with a 47 or a 100. I mean, those are sort of your just typical standardized choices. I don't know, probably really doesn't matter. This, I was looking at this. Looks like this is already blown out the side there. back to our Silvertone 5-tube AM radio. I picked up the electrolytic capacitors. I got a 22, 33, and a 100. They didn't have anything close to 80, but whatever. These things are like plus or minus 100% anyway, tolerance, right? So I picked up the capacitors, the electrolytic capacitors, and I picked up a power cord. So we'll get this lovely thing replaced. I heard something caught my ear. I was listening to something. I can't remember what it was, but it was talking about media and radio and the mainstream media and media outlets in general. And, you know, locally we have the Los Angeles Times, and one of the bigger stories is that the Los Angeles Times just laid off 100 and something people. And look at this paper. Look at how tiny this... I mean, Los Angeles Times should be a major publication, right? Look at this. And this has gotten expensive. I don't know what it is, $2 or $3 a day to have it come to the house. And, I mean, I've seen those little advertising packets that you get in the mail that have more dead tree pulp in it than this. This is like a joke. Also in that same thing, they were saying that, and I honestly can't remember where I heard it, but they were saying that radio is dying and is dead except NPR. And I don't know about that. I mean, the NPR stations tend to have better music programming, but I don't know really who listens to NPR news. But yeah, we are in some type of transitional phase from one thing to another. And I really don't know what's going on there. It's going to be interesting to see over the next year where we come out with radio. I know Odyssey just went bankrupt, but that could just be a reorganizational thing. Anyway, I wanted to take a minute and talk about something different besides just recapping a 5-tube radio. How many channels does YouTube need? You know, how many videos and how many channels where they just recap a 5-tube radio? I mean, it's like enough is enough already, right? We're just having some fun. I went to the swap meet, and my Weller, my trusty, almost lifelong companion Weller 35 watt iron died. Some guy was selling these Chino specials for 3 for $5. And they're rated at 30 watts. Well, they come in at 22 on the watt meter. So I think these are going to kind of be worthless. Also, I picked up a roll of... this is lead free. This is 96.5% SN, which is tin, and 0.5% Cu, which is copper. So this is mostly, that doesn't make sense. What's the other remaining percent? Anyway, this stuff tends to whisker. So I'm going to be very careful where I use this. I'll use this on stuff like recapping these, where I'm simply, where, you know, tin whiskers are not really going to be an issue, and where I'm mixing it with previous lead tin solder. So anyway, at least I'm not afraid to touch this with bare hands or stick it in my mouth and chew on it and blow bubbles with it and use it as a catheter. I've also been on this sort of weird thing of neon lamps. And someone at the swap meet had these neon lamps. And these are a little bit bigger than the normal neon lamps. And I've seen they use these as regulation in TVs. So I've been collecting neon lamps lately. And also I've been collecting Soviet neon lamps. And this is a Soviet neon Thyrotron. But it'll work just as a neon lamp. And other other Soviet neon lamps. So anyway, that's a little bit of diversion from another boring, basic, here's a 5-tube radio. Let's recap it and listen to nothing that there's nothing on to listen to, and it's dying even more right now, right? I want to try and make Ninja here and not have to remove any of this stuff, so I want to just try and cut this thing out of circuit and place the new capacitors down here somewhere.
Deal, and now I have this lump. This is a 6 3/4 liter V8. Appears to be a pushrod engine out of what I assume from my research is a 1987 Bentley Mulsanne S. It's a 230 horsepower, about 400 foot-pound of torque V8 that propels that land yacht to 60 in a yawn-inspiring 17 some odd seconds. It was the 80s. Got to remember that. And from looking at it, at first, I don't even know what all these parts are.
Who else here watches I Do Cars Weekly Teardown? I've been watching this guy for years. He's great. And this is what I'm watching while I'm doing the boring task of replacing capacitors on a radio. So I'm on to the waxies right now. So once I get these changed, maybe we'll do a quick resistor check, and then we'll go over the work, and we'll listen to nothing. Before I hook up the new power cord to the radio, let's take a look at some of these neon bulbs. This is the Soviet Thyratron. These sort of act like a switch, and there's a tickler thingy there, but I'm not using that. I'm just using it right off the AC line with a 180K resistor. So that's what that one looks like. Sort of cool, huh? Well, this is sort of interesting. I thought more of that would light up. Same thing on this one. Maybe I'm not putting enough voltage on it. Maybe my resistor is too big. You know, one thing interesting you can do with these is take the phone and look at them in super slow motion, and you'll actually see that it's alternating back and forth. In fact, I can do that here. So, yeah, this is what's really going on here. And I went down to a 39K resistor, and I didn't get much. It got brighter, but I didn't get much more of the length of the things lit. Maybe after it runs for a while, more would light up. I don't know. That's kind of weird. Me disappointed. Okay, let's go over this. This lead-free solder flows nice and seems to work very well if you use flux. Otherwise, it's not as nice as lead tin solder. Okay, I'm replacing all of the wax capacitors. I left the main electrolytic in there. I just cut it out of the circuit. You can see right there the wires are cut and just folded over underneath. And the new capacitors are wired in, and I tried to get them away from any heat source, and all the negatives are connected together, and it actually looks like a mess, but what doesn't? So I'm replacing, like I said, a lot of the wax ones. And let's check the resistors real quick. Oh, and that's with this iron. I'm actually sort of impressed with this. I have to admit, it must be much more efficient than the Weller at getting the heat to the tip, because for 22 watts, it actually melts these big things very effectively. And I did get, semi-nice solder joints here. So I'm happy with 3 for $5. Should have bought. Wonder if I'll get 2 radios out of each one. Should have bought all of them. All right, are we ready to check resistors? Okay, here we go. Brown, red, red, 1.2. looks like it's pretty close if I could get on it. Okay, that one passes. Brown, red, brown, 120. That one's a little bit up, isn't it? We'll probably leave that. Okay, yellow, purple, black, 47. That one's gone up a little bit, hasn't it? Let's see, what else have we got here? Blue, gray, green. 6.8 megs, is that right? Yeah, that one's gone up a tad, hasn't it? Let me see what else we got here. Red, red, black. That should be 22 ohms. Yeah, I guess that's okay. That looks like all of them. Yeah, that looks like all of them. So we've got a couple of them that have gone up, not radically, but gone up a little bit. If it performs okay, we'll just leave it alone. Okay, here we go. Power has been applied. Need to spray this control. I need to spray this pot.
Interview to me. That was the first. Whether that safety.
BMW, the ultimate electric driving machine. See a SoCal BMW. In Eugene today.
What have we got? Touching plates right there.
I think his campaign might not make it that far. And that's the big prediction here on All American Radio. Hey, that's all the time we have for today.
Very poor performance. Very.
A Band-Aid.
Very poor performance. Okay, why is the performance so poor?
Hablando de esto, pero si te va de aprender de la vida de un santo. Happy finding an infertility.
Aid, the U.S. State Department said there were allegations against 12 employees.
But it doesn't matter.
No, this thing should be blaring loud.
In the last half hour or so.
Programa cada año a partir
Retired or Nick Cronin said, yeah, maybe.
para matar.
Fuera del amor. Buenas nuevas para.
Son cosas fáciles.
Biblical and faithful. Way of free throws.
Today we're going to think about the
8-6 saludable. Los Angeles.
listener supported.
Relevant Radio, 9:30 a.m.
Brinques live on the heart.
17 to Raw 2. Muy buenas noches. Good night.
Will this even get 1260 Kmart's art? I don't think so.
Boy.
This thing's deaf.
UCLA in the second 8 o'clock.
Them were handcuffed but later released. Parties at the unoccupied home began in October.
109. Davis in the contest for LA, 22 points, 11 rebounds. He left in the third quarter.
I can't believe, I mean, I understand it's only got one IF transformer, but I couldn't believe they could sell something that performed this bad. This seems really bad to me. I mean, it almost seems like a TRF set. It's so bad.
Full day of football. That it opens itself up under the current.
1,000 info about the high seas of Southern California.
Yes.
Ha ido creciendo en el handling at the U.S.-Mexico border.
If we put bits in the mouths of horses so that they obey.
35 minutes. I know he had been.
Alright, let me play with this. You don't want to watch me. BA6. We'll just do some substituting here. I think that's what this was, right? BA6. Well, you give it a minute to warm up because that one was cold and all the other ones were hot. I can hear it there. It's actually weaker. Yeah, I think it was better with the other one. That thing seems so hot. I don't know. Let's try this one. What do you call it? The converter, 12BE6. Try switching this one out. I could test them, but it's better just to substitute them. I don't think it's a tube problem.
Experience workers' compensation, employment, and labor law. 310-999-9989. That's 310-999-9989. The law offices of Robert Ozer on the phones are open now.
Oh yes, sue your employer. More lawsuits are good. The world needs more lawyers. Yeah, I don't think it's a tube. It could be this. That's about the same volume, so it's not this one. That is way stronger than the other one. This tube does something interesting. This is the one that was in it, the IF amp. And what it does is it comes up loud and then it gets softer. The 12BA6 that... Listen, it'll get... And then it'll get quieter.
Misclassify them long enough for driverless vehicles to arrive, and then they can do away with this controversy and continue their business. I've always said that I don't see how they're going to win this Prop 22 argument, how they're going to win this court legal argument about their drivers.
This one actually sounded quite a bit louder too. Maybe these tubes are really faded. That would be a first for me. Well, that's not.
You're dialed in 310-999-9989. That's 310-999-9989. The law offices of Robert Ozer on the phones are open now.
No, that doesn't seem to be a correct statement either. Let's try this one. They take an extra long time to warm up when you do this because the resistance is super low on this and the other ones are already hot, so the resistance is high, so it takes a while for them to equalize.
999-9989. That's 9989. The law offices of Robert O's are on. The phones are open now.
Oh,
you
yeah.
Take advantage of a
that's a
completely
huge
free,
difference.
No obligation consult, or you think of it in junk.
Yeah, I think the 12BA6 is bad. The IF amp tube, and I doubt this is good. Yeah, I think this is weak.
And sophistication, following years of being naive and even adverse to the ways of Sacramento. But the problem is, bringing it back to the show, Uber classifies all of its employees as independent contractors, and this is up for discussion. Attorney Robert Ozeron.
Yeah, and we're talking about basically who really pays.
I think that's tired also.
Because if someone circumvents.
You get 355 to 10 degrees above average, and we will like
Problems coming out of his
do something terrible.
ideology and his lack of leadership. There are over 14,000 unfiled cases.
Love you. Oh, he's in Arizona. They didn't get any help.
Stop you. Don't be afraid of the...
Shall we see if we can get the "this is a test" lady? That tube is definitely bad, the 12BA6.
I was on scholarship in my last year. I ended up, leaving the team, and I needed to pay for school. And an easy way to pay for school is, you start serving and, bartending.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there it is. It's very weak. That buzzing is the light. So you test this damn thing, and it tests fine. I put that tube back in, and it just, you can hear it. I'm going to switch it again. This is on KCBS out of the Bay Area. I mean, this is DX. It's from San Francisco, so it's sort of DX. So it fades in and out, but you clearly hear that something's wrong with this. Let's do some voltage checks, just because we can. Oh, well, this is kind of awesome. When the plastic bag, the capacitors came in, melts to the audio. Ooh. Ooh, creamy. Okay, let's look at the voltage on the plate of the 12AV6, which, I don't know, it should be 75, I don't know, 50, something like that. And it comes from the couplet on this thing. So this thing has, all the resistors are in the couplet. $57, that seems about right. Let's see, what's our B+? 128. And our secondary B+ is 102. That's good. Our cathode voltage on our 50C5 is 6 volts. That's probably a little high, but we know that resistor's gone up. Okay, on the 12BA6, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 24 volts. There's something wrong there. Stand by. Okay, once again, 1 pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 23 volts on the IF amp? I don't think so. Pin 6 has 102. Maybe I'm not doing this right. Okay, so pin 5 is the plate. It should be a little bit lower than pin 6. Yes, pin 6 is connected directly to the 1200 ohm. So that's our secondary B+. So pin 6 and pin 5, is that 6.8K gone open? Okay, once again, pin 1, 2. That should be the cathode, I think. 3, 4, 5. 23 volts on the plate. 102 on the screen. There's something very wrong there. And I see that resistor, and I did not check it because I couldn't see it. It's right down in here. You see that? That's at 6... what do they call it? A 6.8K? I bet that's gone way up in value. And that's why this tube acts so weird. Okay, let's see what it measures here. It measures 12K. So it's doubled in value. Blue, gray, red. 6.8. Yeah, it's doubled in value. That is probably for a plate load resistor. It is right there. And it was completely covered with all these wires. It's okay, we get a diagnose. It's gone. It looks like it's doubled in value. Well, looking at this approximately in the Ohm's law calculator, we need to do some testing. Because with the drop that's there now, we have 0.6 watts. And we have a half-watt resistor here. And I have a bunch of quarter-watt 1%. So let me cut that out. Let's tack one in and let's measure the drop across it so we can get an accurate sizing. Maybe that resistor is slightly undersized. Okay, so with the appropriate value resistor in there, we have 42 volts drop. So the power would be resistance. Hold on. Okay, so with those numbers, it's running right at a quarter watt, and that's a quarter watt resistor. So what I can do is I have 3K. I can put two 3K in series. So I put the original tube back in, and now I'm measuring the drop across the resistor, and it's 56 volts. So in reality, the tube that was not working as well in the set originally was actually the stronger tube, but that was being masked by the bad resistor. That resistor is way undersized. Even a half watt is way undersized. That resistor is super hot to the touch. These are 3.3K. I was going to put two in series, but that's still way too low for this resistor. So with those voltages, with the original tube back in, the stronger tube, which of course is conducting harder, it's running 0.67 watts through there. So over a half a watt. So that resistor was undersized for this application, that half watt. So I need to get a big resistor for this. And yes, it really did wake the set up.
System and into their lungs, which is the median.
So, 21 are over to enter and participate.
There, it's getting K Mozart like it should. So that resistor was the lack of gain, the lack of sensitivity. So I need to get like a 1 or 2 watt resistor. I mean, this thing, yeah, it's a 1/4 watt, but you can't even touch it.
Drilled in. Smooth.
That's exactly what I would expect.
Got this job. No reason Marcus being no. I think I'm on the wrong line.
A lot of ground.
And one last story about the...
And again, all that buzzing is the light. Using the schematic to verify that I had tested all the resistors, I went through and checked them all again. And really only had 2 that were out of whack. The 6.8K and the 6.8 meg. So I picked those up. And since the 6.8K is a plate load resistor, I got 2 watt ones. Because I think it was a little bit more than a 1/2 watt. So of course that carbon resistor got smokeificated. So I got 6.8K, and then I got 6.8 meg, and then I got some 56K for my little neon bulb here. I'm just going to solder 2 of them on there to make whatever, 112. So let's go through and hand select measuring these resistors. I'm really just going to line them up in a row and then go through and just test them all one at a time, and I'll show you how much they vary. These are really low quality. You know, if you're doing any kind of real work where you care, I mean, this radio doesn't matter, but buy good 1% ones. You'll see why. Okay, here we go. Let's check these resistors. 6.81K. Next. 6.91K. Next. 6.89K. Next. 6.88K. Now, does this really matter to tube stuff? No, hell no. But this just shows you how grossly made these things are. The tolerances are just, they're all within their rated percent, but 6.9 megs should be a 6.8. 6.99, that's almost 7, yeah. And 7.0, so we'll go with this one. Go with that one, and we'll go with this one. It's about as close as we can get for our hand-selected resistor. New resistors are installed. Let's check the old ones out of circuit. This one should be 6.8 megs. That's not really that far off. It's like one meg off. That might actually still be within spec. Okay, this is the 6.8K that was causing the problem. Yeah, that was doubled in value. Okay, let's test it here. And then on this kind of made me a nightlight, just like this. Safety first. Isn't that cool? This is sort of one of my tests right here is K Mozart, which was LA Oldies. It's not very strong here. So that's okay.
Circuit, the Fifth Circuit.
8 members of that team during a celebration of their gold medal. We've only heard.
Do you know that we shall be like him? It's about saving the soul of America. And you have George Gascon, who keeps using the stupidest excuse in the world for why he wants to not prosecute misdemeanors.
He's one of those people that's been hired to destroy the country.
I got to tell you, Tim, the people that we talk to here in the Southland, they really think that it has more to do with the lack of resources that the schools.
Of course it evolved.
58.
AM 570 LA Sports.
Traffic.
Good. And so they just got to be killed.
Little kids for kindergarten.
Regardless of the statistics,
I mean, in California, most of the politicians are crime victims themselves.
I've been bipped several times.
Really, the response of a handprint or something.
After a drone attack that killed 3 U.S.
Which is really icky and grossly immoral, I would say, to the extent it.
I don't think that turning that IF transformer does much. I tried it. It didn't seem to really do anything. I don't know. It's one IF transformer. It's not a great radio. It's really not. Doesn't have the selectivity that a 2 IF would. But this was sort of an interesting one because basically it was an out-of-spec resistor that could be masked by a weak tube. When you put the weak tube in there, it would conduct less, so it wouldn't load the resistor down as hard, so it would work better. So, yeah, not a bad tube, just a bad resistor.
Estimation that the New York Times editorial board.
S에서에게 모여서 율법에 기록된 바를 본 즉. 그 뒤에도 족장들, 제사장들, 레위 사람들 또.
I think it's going to work, and that buzzing is the light in here, but I think that's about as good as it's going to get.
Of success. And we're going to pause right here, but we'll get back to this message from the Book of Deuteronomy in just a moment.
Well, what the hell? You put it all back together and it's deaf. There's no way to get to the antenna trimmer to adjust it with it apart. I mean, with it together.
For 8 adults and plenty of on base for.
It's like the antenna's out of alignment because...
침수시키는 작전을 사용하고 있다고 공식 확인했습니다. 이스라엘 측이 이런 작전.
That's like the antenna's out of alignment. So maybe what I need to do is I need to take it apart, mount the antenna back on here, and then align the antenna trimmer. Okay, so I got it mounted. Maybe this metal thing is affecting the antenna, so let's see.
Próximo partido de
Still not great. It's disappointing.
Merchandise of it, merchandise of silver, and the gain thereof them fine gold.
If you recently told you're fired, a college professor and author has some advice. More from CBS's Matt Piper.
Layoffs have been happening everywhere, but Stanford University professor Jeffrey Pfeffer says for those who are laid off, you don't need to make a drastic career change.
People's careers based on you were made.
Ave Maria Mutual.
In the darkest night, even the smallest light shines bright.
Robberies and
We'll talk to you on the announcement. Shares of the package. They did.
No sería
even $200 a year. Dial pound 250. It's the most on record since the 1950s.
I would give the performance of this thing a 3 out of 10. It's not very good. And I just don't think it is very good. I mean, one IF transformer, I think this was sort of a budget set. And age has probably faded a little bit of what was there away. But hey, it's a good city radio. It's a good one to listen to the news on. So anyway, yeah, All American 5 minus one IF transformer, radio, repair, restore, whatever. Well, we are not finished yet. I have to tack on an update here. I found out that the owner of this radio is going to send it to his mother in Guatemala. And when he told me that, I said, we better put some silicone on the vacuum bulbs, because when you ship something, as you will probably see in maybe next week's video or last week's video or something like that, that when you ship things, these can fall out, especially when the sockets are loose and tired, as in these ones that are baked. So I made a mistake when I put the silicone on. I pulled them all out to clean the glass off, and I switched the 50C5 and the 35W4. You can see I updated there with a red pencil. And as soon as I plugged it in, a capacitor exploded. So I have to open it up. It still works fine. It's probably the cathode bypass cap on the 50C5. But let's open it up and see what I damaged and fix it. Well, it certainly was not the cathode bypass cap. It was the 100 microfarad filter. It plufocruculated. Look at that. It vented. Amazing the radio still works with no hum. And by the way, Guatemala does use 110 volts at 60 hertz. So this radio will probably work very well there. And they probably still have decent AM broadcasting in Guatemala. I don't know, but hey, whatever. New capacitor number 2 has been installed. It's interesting that they wouldn't design it so that if you accidentally reverse those tubes, it would self-protect. It seemed like that could be a common mistake, that they would just change the pins around in engineering. Anyway, maybe I get double credit for this since I did a double recap. Maybe I earned some extra internet credits. Alright, well, I think we can say it's done a second time. Should be ready for shipping now. I mean, yeah, if you're going to ship one of these and you want it to work on the other end, you need to put a little dot of silicone at the base of those tubes. Zenith used to do that with their black and white sets, and that's kind of where I got the idea. And it's a good idea, and it doesn't hurt anything because the silicone just scrapes off just like that when you're done with it. If you need to change the tube, it's just silicone. You just scrape it off.